Someone probably told you that the third date is when it happens. And maybe you followed that rule and maybe you hated yourself a little bit afterwards, or maybe you noticed it didn't always end well when you did that. The thing that most people don't tell you is that sex has nothing to do with a date number. It has to do with readiness, real readiness. And most people do not know what that actually looks like. So I am sitting down today with one of the sharpest voices in relationship coaching, love, and dating coaching. And together we're going to go over 6 questions you need to be able to answer before knowing that sex belongs in your relationship. You will leave with a checklist. I love that stuff. And you will never again have to wonder when it is time and if you are ready and if you should, etc. So, this is a specific list that you need to know about a man and yourself before sex makes sense. There is also going to be a review in this conversation about monogamy. And it's a conversation that we want you to design before you have sex. Most couples skip this step and hope it all works out. And occasionally it does, but not usually. And then we're going to talk about something that catches women off guard every single time about sex. We're going to name it, and we're going to give you strategy around it. And lastly, we're going to talk about why sex can go badly. And we are going to share the questions you need to ask yourself and your partner what is necessary to ensure that it is a good experience. Not just the right one, but actually a good one. If you do not have time to listen to everything today, because I think this is going to be a long one, go ahead and use the timestamps to jump around, okay? Don't feel you have to do the whole thing in one fell swoop. Although later, come back and listen to the whole thing. I'm taking notes for you. It's down in the show notes. You don't need to take notes. But while I was actively dating myself, a lot of this came from experience because if you know, sometimes I was on the fence about somebody, perfectly nice guy, just I liked him, wasn't sure, wasn't feeling all that attracted to, but thought they were good on paper. And one guy actually said to me, we'd had dinner several times, and then I was actually in my car. I was driving from New York to Philadelphia, which is where my family is. And he called me and I said that I was driving and he said to me, well, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah, sure. What? And he said, are we ever going to have sex? And I said, honest, you know what? Since you asked, probably not, because it was such a turnoff to me because clearly I wasn't giving him signals that I wanted to, which is probably why he asked. But that's a little bit where my 10-date rule came in because men will reveal themselves if they're not willing to be patient. Someone who's really looking for a relationship will wait and will be patient. But someone who's just hot for you and looking for a hookup gets impatient. And then it separates, right? It separates the men's and the boys, or the impatience from the long-term committed. So I don't know if you are familiar too much with my methodology, but I use something called the 3H framework, which is the head, the heart, and the hoo-ha. And I actually have my clients give list and think about what is important to them in those areas and sort of vet for those 3 sets of criteria and not to even consider having a 4th date, much less sex, unless that person is ringing the bell on head, heart, and hoo-ha. In other words, it's sensible, it feels good, and you're turned on. And I think the example you gave is really interesting because oftentimes I have men and women say to me, 3 dates is not enough, Lori. How am I going to learn in 3 dates? And they're right. You can only learn in 3 dates should you have a 4th date. But you're probably not going to be able to determine if someone is an 8 or above is my standard in all 3. By date 3, you probably need, if you're a woman, you probably need many more dates than that. Is that what you have found? Absolutely. And I think, having been a matchmaker, I think you should always go for a 2nd date at minimum because people are very frequently different on a 2nd date in a good way because they know what they're getting. Now, on the 1st date, a lot of people struggle with nerves, and I had one guy that was a catch, but he couldn't keep his mouth shut. He just would get so nervous, talk so much. They do. Yes. Yeah. And he actually said to me, I just get them to have a 2nd date with me. I'm so much better on the 2nd date. Yes, totally. And I think that's true of a lot of people. So yeah, I do think that commonality and really connecting, I always say I want my best friend that I can't keep my hands off of, right? So before I can't keep my hands off of you, you need to really have that for somebody and feel like you know them a little bit that, right? You're the same kind of people with ethics and values and goals and that you are heading towards the same idea of what a relationship is, right? Okay, we're gonna drill down on all of that. I just want to end this little moment by saying, for me, the third date rule is not have sex. I'm pretty sure a man started that idea because, and I understand for a man knowing what the sex life is going to be like and knowing that a woman is willing to have sex is a very important hoo-ha criteria for a man. So he doesn't want to invest 10 dates if he's not going to eventually have that be part of a relationship. So I really do get that. But for me, the third date rule is, do we meet each other's 3 criteria at an 8 or above in all 3? Are we, or are we selling out, right? For the guy who looks good on paper but doesn't turn us on, or the guy who turns us on but is not good on paper or good for our hearts. So that's the real 3-date rule. The sex rule is really when you're ready. And now we're going to drill down on what does ready mean. Welcome back to Love at Any Age, everybody. And Donna, where dating does not come with an expiration date, and neither does love. I am Lori Gerber, your dating coach, truth teller, and I've been at this for 20 years, helping women over 50 stop the guessing games and start choosing wisely, not just about who they date, but who they have sex with. It's part of it. In fact, it is the distinction between friendship and a romantic relationship. So we have to talk about sex. Let's talk about why Donna Barnes is the perfect person to be sitting across from me. You may know her from the real Sex and the City. And Donna, we are the Sex and the City generation here because we are women over 50. So we remember the show, and we remember your show back in the early 2000s when you were doing reality TV and sort of introducing people to the world of dating through your own personal eyes. But obviously, after having tons of personal experience and learning in that, you went on and wrote your book, Giving Up Junk Food Relationships, Recipes for Healthy Choices. I love the analogy to food. I think it could not be more appropriate. It totally works. I have so many food analogies for dating. And then you became the expert on Good Morning America. You have coached, probably thousands by now in all your different ways. And of course, your beautiful podcast. Say the name of the podcast and the mission of the podcast, if you would, please. Well, Broken to Brave is my podcast title, which is really about fixing things that are broken and being brave enough to really look at the things that are causing you to be broken. So, yeah, Broken to Brave. Beautiful. And would you say that is a good podcast for somebody who is curious about how to date smarter and more healthfully? Is this for my people? Okay. I think it is. But I wanted to hear from you. Yes, I'm the love coach because love encompasses all avenues, dating, relationships, breakups. It really is all under the guise of love, right? So yeah, Broken to Brave is the exact transition we are looking for here. So thank you and welcome. I find that the world of sex is where women often override themselves and their own truth. Let's put it that way. So when a client comes to trust me, I very quickly explain to them that just like the hurdle to a 4th date will be, well, this person fits your criteria, there are going to be six, count them, 6 hurdles to when I'm going to say it's healthy to have sex with someone. And I've turned this into questions that I think that they need to be able to ask and answer. And I want to pose these to you and get your particular slant on each one. So that's what we're about to do, okay? Okay. So question number 1, and you alluded to this already, which was perfect. Do I know him well enough? Do I know him well enough? That should be the first question, right? Right? Because honestly, I think I like to say sex makes you stupid. If you're really attracted to somebody and you jump in with the chemistry, you may or may not see that person again. Because, especially right-handed men think and feel separately. So they can be in the moment, feeling amazing, and you think you're off and running to this fabulous relationship, but then the next day, they might be in their now thinking brain, and they might realize, we're not really right for each other. That was good. I don't need more of that. So as a woman, I think you really get to know somebody, a man particularly, because he needs to get to know you so that he's more attached to you before he finally gets to have sex with you, because otherwise you don't know that you're ever going to see him again. And what would you say the chances are? Would you say it's 50-50? He's in his thinking mind or his feeling? I think it really comes down to how much you connected before you actually fall into bed together. Does he have enough interest in you? Is he intrigued by you to want to see you again? Because let's face it, people do what they want to do. So if he got kind of what he was after and then didn't really feel like it was necessary again, you won't hear from him again. And I have clients come to me all the time heartbreak because they had an amazing date with somebody. It was going so well. They hopped into bed. They thought it was a relationship. And then they never heard from the guy again. And they're baffled because they thought it was amazing. But that's exactly why you can't jump into bed right away. Because if he is that excited about you, he's still going to be that excited about you the next time, and he will wait. But if he gets it right away, because also too, even if you never do that at all, but you do with this guy, because this guy seems like he's the one, he's never going to believe you that you don't do that with everybody because that's his experience. I explained, right? You've explained why it happens, how it happens, and how to avoid it. And you even added in one really great point, which is the men see it through a different lens. And so where you think it's this amazing gift you're giving, because he's so special, he has no way to know or experience that it is special, because he's not experiencing it. He's only experiencing what you're doing with him. Brilliant. Okay. So obviously you're a proponent of waiting if you don't want to get hurt. Are you implying, though, that left-handed men are different? Yes. It's the way your brain's wired. Women, all women, and right and left-handed men can think and feel at the same time. So, like you know this as a woman, we can be in the moment and thinking and feeling and summing it up and deciding this is amazing. Yeah, let's go. But a right-handed man thinks or feels. His brain isn't capable of thinking and feeling at the same time. So, and that's the biggest piece of information about if you're thinking about having sex with somebody, because of course he's seeming like he's as into you as you're into him, because he's in his feeling brain and it's all good. But now that he's not with you anymore, he's going to go back to his thinking brain. And men need to go away to feel their feelings, to really process. So if you've had an amazing first date, you need to give him time to think about you before you have a second date so that hopefully he's really excited to see you. Beautiful advice. I want to talk about the things that I tell women to find out about someone and reveal to someone before I think they can say, I know this person. Well, I want you to kind of know the story of their life and for them to know the story of your life. I want you to know their hopes and dreams across different areas of life and their current realities. I want you to know about their personality. I want you to know about their positive and negative traits and who their parents were and who their family is. And I want you to know about the moments in time that shape them, which gets into some heavy stuff sometimes. But guess what gets triggered when you have sex? Those types of experiences from your past. And so I tell my clients, if you don't feel like you can sort of tell me about this person in regards to these 4 categories, I'm going to say you're avoiding conversations. I would like to hear if you give similar advice. What kind of advice do you give to help a woman get to know, or a man, whoever's listening, get to know the other person, right? I think the whole purpose of the first couple of dates is get to know you kind of conversations, right? What do you do is a jumping off question, but exactly. Do you have siblings? Are you close to your family? What is your goal? What are you looking for? Absolutely. I think the more you can get to tell someone's personality, because let's face it, everybody's on their best behavior on a first or couple of dates. And I always say people reveal themselves if you're paying attention. And you need to be really vigilant about spotting red flags. And it doesn't mean you need to stop seeing someone if you see a red flag, but you absolutely need to ask them about it and probe a little bit to see, is that an actual red flag, or is that a yellow flag, or is it maybe something? And also too, because if someone is capable of self-growth and interested in self-growth, that's a good thing, because it means if you're going to have problems, that you're going to be able to work on them together and make positive change to get along. But because I always say the only winner of an argument should be your relationship, and that you discovered another way to get along. So I think having somebody who's willing to do that and has an open mind about that is really essential. So in the early stages of dating, no matter how attracted you are to somebody, if you can recognize that they're saying things that really don't fit with your lifestyle or your goals or what you're desiring from a relationship, then yes, you need to talk about it. But if you don't get the answers that you want, it's much better to stop seeing that person in the beginning than if you're crazy hot for them, you linger. 3 to 6 months down the line, and now it's a whole lot harder to walk away from. Exactly. Investment bias? Yes. Beautiful. And I want to tell people to go to episode 6 if you haven't yet, because I have a list of questions for you to ask on the first few dates that will really help you. And I have a lot to say on questions and how to make them less interrogative and more open and playful and fun. But the kinds of questions that get at what I call liabilities or sticky areas versus avoid them, but go at it at a playful and fun way. And that's in episode 6. And that sounds like what you are exactly advising for people to do. I love how you're also making the point that if someone is not open to asking and answering questions to get to know you in the first 3 dates, that is certainly a yellow, if not a red flag. Because if they're serious and they're looking for long-term partnership, they should want to know where the sticky spots are or where the compatibilities are. Absolutely. And I think if you ask the right questions that are really just curiosity questions, people like to talk about themselves, and if they don't, what are they hiding? Brilliant, right? Which leads to question number 2, which is, are we a match, right? And I always try to tell people, you're not trying to find a perfect person, and you are not trying to present as perfect. You're trying to see, does the real you match the real other person, right? So we cannot determine that without conversations about head-heart and hoo-ha criteria. So my question to you, Donna, is how does someone know if they have found a match or not? Largely by communicating your wants, needs, and desires and really having that open communication. And I do find that when someone's the right choice for you, it's just easy, right? I've had clients come to me who are in really toxic relationships and they're just jumping through hoops trying to make it work, and then they meet somebody who's really right for them, and they go on about, it's so easy. It's so easy. And I think that's really the mark of a good relationship, is that it's just easy. Conversation just goes. I think it was at like VH1 or MTV, one of those, and this other girl sitting there said to me, "Are you a therapist?" And I said, "No, are you?" And she said, "No, I'm a life coach." I said, "What's a life coach?" Right? So, and she went to NYU, right? Yeah. And honestly, it was like August. So the new September, you went for it. I enrolled. So, and then, yes, I wrote Giving Up Junk Food Relationships, because yes, junk food is very much like a bad relationship, that it's hot and good when it's hot, but it's good down. But kind laughter of doesn't make you feel so good afterwards, right? Not work out in the end. No. Beautiful. I love that analogy. Really, it is rare for me, Donna, to find somebody's body of work that I agree with completely. I take no exception to whatsoever, and then I invite them on the podcast. So thank you so much for sharing that wisdom and for your mission to help people find healthy, lasting love, which is the same exact mission that I have. We did it, folks. We did all the things we promised in the beginning, and hopefully you took them to heart. I want to give you some homework, as I always want to do at the end of these podcasts, because they are meant to be actionable. So I want you to go through the 6 questions, the 6 hurdles yourself in regards to either someone you are currently seeing or perhaps someone you saw recently and it didn't work out with. Let's analyze why. Let's get to the bottom of it so we can learn and then apply the hurdles to the next relationship so you do not end up having sex too soon and getting your heart broken or avoiding sex altogether because you're not sure, right? We're giving you a step-by-step roadmap. So please do it in writing. Go back into the show notes, go back and listen again, take the 6 questions to heart, and see for yourself where you are breaking down. Donna, do you want to give them any homework besides listening to Broken to Brave, the podcast? Well, yes. And Lori Gerber Talks is my YouTube channel, but no, but honestly, really is to listen to your own gut and put yourself first. And it doesn't matter how crazy you are about somebody, you need to be more crazy about yourself and make really smart decisions, because otherwise you break your own heart by just not listening to yourself. You have to set the tone, right? You have to set the tone with how much you love and care for yourself, or else no one else is going to do it. Thank you. Highly recommend. If you have not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel or given us a review, go ahead and take that action to keep us being able to keep the lights on and keep doing this. If you don't know how to click the bell button, if you don't know how to subscribe, get your kid, get your grandkid to come over and teach you. If you can't figure out how to sign in and leave a comment, get someone younger to come teach you how to do it, because I need your participation. This is Love at Any Age, where dating and love do not come with an expiration date. I can't wait. See you in next video.